The top 10 most dangerous prisoners in the world. Planet Earth is a wonderful place with some deplorable living creatures. Evidently, these are human beings who have committed unutterable crimes and have gone on murdering lots of their fellow men before law reflected what they truly deserved. Prisons are generally recognized to be a dreadful place not just for the disciplinary restrictions in which the prisoners live in, but for the prisoners themselves. Before we go any further, please like and subscribe to our channel and press the bell icon to get new excellent updates only us can provide. Without turning this into a movie, here are the top 10 most dangerous prisoners of all times that could make you realize that indeed, they're outstandingly blameworthy. The Red Ripper. First on our list is a man who killed a lot of people before eventually being arrested in 1990. Andrei Romanov is known to have raped 52 innocent women. He confessed to an overly disgusting 56 killings and was tried for 53 in 1992. He remains the most dangerous serial killer in the history of Russia. When Andrei Chikatilo was initially brought into custody in 1984, he had already murdered 32 individuals. He was captured by cops while making an attempt to bait a woman away from a bus station, and he had the same features of the man last seen with a 10-year-old Dmitry Patashnikov before the boy's lifeless body was discovered. But Andrei's blood type didn't match the attestation seen at different unsolved murder sites. Therefore, the accusation was dismissed. After the incident, the serial murderer would kill dozens more before eventually being arrested in 1990. A complete 6 years afterward. He was named as the most vicious serial murderer in Russia's history, murdering more than 50 people, and was able to keep up his carefree adventure mostly due to lack of technological advancements at that time. It was deliberated only 2 years prior to the last apprehension that blood type could be unlike or distinct in form from semen and saliva type in certain uncommon cases, and that notion finally led to his capture and conviction. Eileen Vernanos. Eileen Carol Vernanos was a murderer who often targeted truck drivers in Florida. Her father, Leo Pittman, was a sociopathic child killer who was in different mental facilities throughout her youth and finally faced his death in prison. 4-year-old Eileen and her brother were taken by their grandparents to live with them. Her teenage years were tragic as she resided in a house for single mothers, dropped out of school, and turned into a sex worker. She was apprehended multiple times for auto theft, check forgery, and armed robbery. Eileen Vernanos obtained the name America's First Serial Killer by 1991. Nowhere to go, Eileen stayed on the streets and motels, murdering men who got the chance to hook her on the side of the highway. She protested that the killings were committed in self-defense, that the men attempted to rape her. Amidst 1989 to 1990, she killed not less than 7 men. In 1992, she obtained 6 death sentences. And by 2002, she was ultimately neutralized via lethal injection. Her last statement was, "I just like to say I'm sailing with the rock, and I'll be back like Independence Day with Jesus, June 6. Like the movie, Bog Mothership and all, I'll be back." The Eyeball Man. Third on our list wasn't just considered evil because of what he did, but his entire appearance as well. What made him look even more dangerous was his tattoo, an eyeball tattoo. Yes, a tattoo located on the eyeball. You should not normally judge a book by its cover, but this guy is an exception. Anchorage, Alaska, Jason Walter Barnum, a man who has obtained the nickname Eyeball, said that his beautiful face turned him homeless, unemployed, and criminal again. Eyeball was found to have responsibility for first-degree robbery, first-degree attempted murder, and third-degree felony in taking into control of a weapon. He was linked to 7 felonious happenings in the Anchorage hillside area. The said incident transpired when cops were on investigation for home robberies and car thefts. In 2012, cops were doing an inspection inside a hotel when Jason started blasting from a comfort room. When they handcuffed one of his fellow criminals, Jason began shooting at officers with a gun he'd robbed. As a response, officers fired back, hitting Jason in the arm. He later unveiled the fact that he did the act of stealing in order to fulfill his heroin addiction. John Wayne Gacy Jr. To most people, John Wayne Gacy was a friendly man who loved to spend time with young children on a daily basis. He never got tired of dressing up as his alter ego, Pogo the Clown, at celebrations that he hosted for his whole neighborhood. Unfortunately, by 1987, impressions about him would constantly change, and he would obtain the sinister nickname, the Killer Clown. He was a serial murderer and rapist who killed male teens in County, Illinois, placing their decaying bodies just underneath his house. Others were taken from the nearby Des Plaines River. After being found to be guilty of sexual assault in 1968, his killings were known. After a short jury deliberation, he was certainly convicted of doing 33 killings, and he was widely known as one of the most notorious serial killers in the history of the United States. He was condemned to serve 12 death sentences and 21 natural life sentences. He was confined at the Menard Correctional Center in Illinois for 10 years and a half, facing the sentence and giving opposing statements on the killings in discussions. Rodney Alcala. Rodney James Alcala is an American convicted sexual predator and serial murderer who was condemned to serve death sentence in California for engaging 5 killings in that state from 1977 to 1979. Moreover, he gained another sentence of 25 years to life after he was found guilty to 2 homicides that happened in New York in 1971 and 1977. The number of people he victimized remains unknown and could be much higher. What's more, he collected over 1,000 pictures of women and teen girls and boys, and most of them were in sexually explicit poses. In 2016, he was fairly associated to the murder of a woman identified in one of his compiled photographs. He is known to have raped one other person who was seen in his collection as well. So the cops concluded that others could be sexual assault and murder victims too. He is nicknamed the Dating Game Killer due to his 1978 appearance on the television show The Dating Game in the middle of his bloody expedition. Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy, a handsome young man whose name became renowned after his confession about killing 30 girls and women in the 1970s. Throughout the summer of spring of 1974, cops in the Northwest were in a total chaos. Ladies at colleges across Oregon and Washington were suddenly fleeing, and law enforcement had some suspects as to who was behind the civil unrest. Within 6 months, 6 women had been seized by an unknown man and carried off to an unfamiliar place. After that, how many incidents, his major mission, which was seizing female students in the area, continued. His main technique was acting as if he was disabled and approaching women for help in putting something in his Volkswagen Beetle. He would then strike them to the extent that they would be unconscious before raping, taking away their lives, and leaving their bodies in the woods. On a daily basis, he would revisit these spots to molest, abuse, and have sex with their rotting lifeless bodies. Sometimes, he would behead his victims and take their heads in his cozy apartment, resting with his trophies. Ted was fairly convicted and placed on death row at Florida's Rayford prison, where he was abused by other prisoners by gang raping him. He finally faced his final day on January 24, 1989, with the use of electric chair. Many people gathered outside the courthouse to proclaim the glory of his death. Dennis Rader. Dennis Rader, aka BDK, which means blind him, torture them, kill him. He was one of the most dangerous prison inmates in the annals of America. With each and every victim that he agonized, he always took elaborated pictures of the session, and he kept it tucked away inside the basement where no one knew. According to news publishers, when he decided to establish his first savage attack in 1974 on the Otero family, he legitimately had no idea how to murder and torment them to death. After his earliest grasp on the beauty of criminality, he continued to kill not less than 10 people. BDK was instantly caught and punished for every person that he killed in 2005. And there's a creepy video where he talks about all of his gory deeds. Mary Mallon. Mary Mallon, aka Typhoid Mary, is known to have transmitted her illness to 51 people, and 3 of those ailments resulted in death. While Mary possessed an exceedingly transmittable bacterium that produces typhoid fever, she went on working as a domestic worker and cooked for people as to the reason that they were infected. Way back in antiquity, hospitals were having a tough time treating ailments such as typhoid. She evidently knew about her condition, but continued to work anyway. As a result of her dangerous pattern, she was held liable to spend the last 23 years of her existence in forced isolation. The Nithari Killers. Serial murderer Moninder Singh Pander, in partnership with Surinder Kole, were sentenced to death in association with one of the 16 killing cases in the Nithari murders last 2017. The Nithari murder was spotlighted due to the discovery of 8 skeletal fragments of youths from the drainage of a home in Nithari, Noida. There were lots of accusations in regards to their presence, from pedophilia, cannibalism, and rape to organ trafficking. H. Holmes. There are a lot of stories about H. Holmes. He's been nicknamed the Devil of Chicago, and that about summarizes the kind of human he was. It was possibly certain that such an atrocious life as he's gone through would get summed up in legend and myth. Holmes slaughtered unaware visitors who booked themselves into homestay at the Chicago guest house, clueless of the fact that they had entered the mansion of a bloodthirsty maniac. The building was a horrendous maze of unknown paths and death rooms, specially engineered for murdering, tormenting, and disposing of bodies. The serial killer owned the hotel, which spanned nearly 3 blocks. No one knew the entire design but himself, as he continued hiring and firing engineers and architects. Holmes would watch his visitors through small holes before breaking in to their chambers and killing them in different disgusting ways. He was executed by hanging at Philadelphia's Moyamensing prison on May 7, 1896. Witnesses revealed that he maintained his cool composure to the very end, even jesting the executioner to be gentle and patient in killing him. It took him 15 minutes to take his demise, twitching repeatedly as he choked to death before he was declared dead, as reported by the New York Times. Since this day, some experts have affirmed that he could have been Jack the Ripper, taking out the notorious Whitechapel killings during a visit to England. Do they scare you? Which of them frightens you the most? Comment your thoughts down below. We would like to know your conclusions. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a thumbs up so we can upload related videos. If you're an abundant true serial crime stan, remain seated as the next video is starting.